In a time when the spirits still walked freely among us, there was a girl who did the unthinkable. She married a snake to save her village. But what happened next? No one could have predicted. The village of Humana sat at the edge of the great river, where the water ran clear and the fish were plenty. For generations, the people lived in peace, their children laughing in the compounds, their crops growing tall and green. But one dry season, everything changed. The river began to die, first slowly, then faster, like life draining from a wounded animal. The water turned murky and low. The fish disappeared. The crops withered in the fields. Children cried from hunger. Mothers wept in the night. The elders consulted the oracle, and the oracle's voice trembled with fear. The river spirit is angry. His python's son was killed by hunters from this village 3 moons ago. Now he demands payment. A bride must be given to replace the son that was taken. She must go willingly. In 3 days' time, or the river will disappear forever, and Humana will become dust. Silence fell over the village like a burial shroud. Who would sacrifice themselves? Who would marry a snake and disappear into the river's depths, never to return? Nneka was 17, strong and quick-witted, with eyes that saw more than most. She was promised to Chaik, the blacksmith's son, and their wedding was only 2 moons away. She had dreamed of this marriage her whole life. Of children, of growing old together, of all the small joys that make a life worth living. But as she watched her younger siblings grow thin from hunger, as she saw her mother's tears, as she heard the desperate prayers of her neighbors, something hard formed in her chest. A decision that felt like swallowing stones. On the evening of the 2nd day, she walked to the center of the village where the elders sat in council, their faces grave with the weight of impossible choices. "I will go," her mother screamed. Her father fell to his knees. Chaik grabbed her arm, his eyes wild with panic. "Nneka, no! There must be another way." But she pulled free, her jaw set like iron. "There is no other way. If I don't go, we all die. At least this way, Humana survives. My brothers and sisters survive. That's enough." The elders bowed their heads, grateful and ashamed in equal measure. They gave her 3 gifts: a white cloth for her burial, sacred oil to anoint her body, and a prayer to carry into the depths. That night, Chaik came to her window, pleading, "Run away with me. We'll start over somewhere else. And leave everyone here to die." "I can't, Chaik. I won't." "Then I'll come with you into the river." "No, you'll live. You'll remember me. That's all I ask." At dawn, they dressed her in white like a bride walking to her death. The entire village followed Nneka to the riverbank, singing the old songs of mourning and praise. She walked with her head high, though her legs trembled with every step. At the water's edge, the river began to churn. Waves rose where there should have been stillness. And then he emerged. A python. Massive beyond imagination. His scales the color of deep water under moonlight. His eyes like amber holding fire. Around his body coiled streams of water that defied gravity, spiraling upward like liquid smoke. When he spoke, his voice was the sound of rivers flowing over ancient stones. "You are the bride?" "I am Nneka. I come willingly, as the oracle demanded." "Do you know what you're agreeing to?" "I'm agreeing to save my people." "Even though it costs you everything?" "Yes." The python's eyes studied her with an intelligence that was utterly human and completely inhuman all at once. "Most who come to me come with hatred in their hearts, or fear so thick I can taste it. But you come with love. Love for people who let you sacrifice yourself. They didn't let me. I chose." "Why?" "Because someone had to." The python lowered his massive head until his eyes were level with hers. "Then you are braver than you know. Nneka of Humana, come. Your life as you knew it ends here. Another begins." She stepped forward, the water rising to meet her feet, warm as blood. She turned back once, catching Chaik's eyes across the distance. He was weeping, but she forced herself to smile, to give him that one last gift of courage. Then the water closed over her head, and the world she knew disappeared. Nneka expected to drown, expected darkness and silence and the end of all things. Instead, She found herself in a palace beneath the river. Walls of crystal that caught the light filtering down from above. Floors of smooth pearl. Gardens where water plants swayed in currents that sang like wind through trees. The python led her through halls where fish swam like birds and crabs walked like servants. Other spirits moved in the shadows, creatures of scale and fin and flowing water, watching her with curious eyes. He brought her to a chamber where a pool of perfectly still water reflected the sky far above. This is your home now. You may move freely here. Eat what you wish. Sleep when you tire. But know this. You are bound to me for 7 years. 7 years to replace the 7 years my brother lived before he was killed. After that, you may choose to stay or return to the surface. 7 years, Nneka whispered. 7 years away from sunlight, from her family, from Chaik, from everything she knew. 7 years, the python confirmed. But they need not be years of suffering. I am not cruel, Nneka. I am simply balancing the scales. Life for life, time for time. And so began her life beneath the river. At first, the days blurred together in homesickness so acute it felt like physical pain. She would sit by the pool and look up at the distant shimmer of the surface world, tears mixing with the water around her. But slowly, something unexpected happened. She began to notice things. The python was not a monster. He was a guardian, responsible for the health of the river and all its creatures. He spent his days ensuring the water stayed clean, the fish had enough food, the balance of life remained undisturbed. She began to help him, at first just to pass the time. Then because she genuinely wanted to. She learned to speak to the fish, to guide the currents, to feel the pulse of the river like a heartbeat. And she learned about him. His name was Kachi. He had lived for years past. 3, then 4, then 5. Nneka grew in ways she never expected. She became a healer of waters, able to purify sickness with a touch. She could hear the river speak, telling her when droughts were coming, when floods threatened, when the balance tipped toward danger. She thought often of her village, of her family, of Chaik. But the ache had dulled to something softer. Not forgetting, but accepting. In the 6th year, Kachi became ill, a strange sickness that even the river spirits couldn't cure. His scales lost their luster. His movements grew slow. The whole underwater kingdom trembled with fear. Nneka sat by his side day and night, using everything she had learned to ease his pain. She sang to him the old songs from Yumana, the ones her mother had taught her. She told him stories of the surface world, of children playing, of markets bustling with life. Why do you care? Kachi asked one night, his voice weak. I took you from everything you loved. You gave me purpose. You showed me I was stronger than I knew. You taught me that life isn't about what you have, but what you give. How could I not care? You should hate me. I should, but I don't. She took his massive head in her lap, unafraid. I understand you now. You were grieving. Sometimes grief makes us do terrible things, but it doesn't make us terrible. Kachi's eyes cleared then, focused on her with sudden intensity. Nneka, do you know what breaks a curse? What curse? My father cursed me when I demanded a bride. He said I was acting out of vengeance, not justice. That until I learned the difference between payment and forgiveness, I would remain trapped in this form, unable to transform, unable to truly live. I don't understand. Don't you? You came here hating me. You should have left hating me more. But instead, you learned to see past the monster to the person underneath. You forgave not just me, but yourself for the choice you made. That's the real transformation, Nneka. Your 7 years are complete, Kachi said, his new voice strange without the rumble of water beneath it. You can return to the surface now, to your village, to your life, to Chaik. If he waited, Nneka looked around the crystal palace, at the gardens she had tended, at the fish who knew her name, at the kingdom she had helped protect. Then she looked at Kachi, this man who had been her captor, then her companion, then her friend. What will you do now? She asked. Return to the surface as well. Live as humans live. Learn what it means to have a life that ends, so that every moment matters. And if someone wanted to teach you about living on the surface? Kachi smiled, and it transformed his entire face. I would be honored to have such a teacher. They emerged from the river together as the sun rose, two figures walking out of the water as if born from it. The village of Yumana, gathered for their morning prayers, stood frozen in shock. Nneka's mother fainted. Her father wept. And Chaik stood at the edge of the crowd, older now, with a wife beside him and a child in his arms. He looked at Nneka with tears in his eyes, but also with joy. "You came back," he called out. "I did, and I'm happy for you, Chaik. Truly." He nodded, understanding everything that didn't need to be said. The river behind them flowed clear and strong again, fuller than it had been in 7 years. The fish had returned, the crops would grow, Yumana would thrive, and Nneka stood beside Kachi, ready to begin the greatest adventure of all, a life freely chosen. The monsters we fear often carry their own pain, their own stories, their own need for healing, and transformation comes not from magic, but from the slow, patient work of understanding and forgiveness. Nneka could have spent 7 years in bitterness. Instead, she spent them in growth. She turned sacrifice into purpose, captivity into calling, and fear into compassion. In doing so, she freed not just a cursed spirit, but herself. Remember this: the life you lose may become the life you needed. The prison you enter may be the place you finally learn to fly. And the monster you fear may be waiting for someone brave enough to see them truly. Moral lesson: true courage means sacrificing for others without bitterness. Compassion and forgiveness can break the strongest curses. Sometimes losing everything is how we find what we truly need.